Hey everybody, so as promised, I am back with another What Sold video, working on going through the second week of November, and I thought I would start off with an Etsy sale this time. The one that was a fun one, that was on the thumbnail that you saw for this video. And as you can see, this brass gong and mallet sold for $250 over on Etsy. We did find this at a yard sale a little while back, so let me just pause here for a second. I'm going to send you over to Mr. Pish Posh, and he's going to explain just very briefly what it is he did to get this piece ready for listing.
Hey there, Mace here, Mr. Pish Posh. So we bought this gong at an estate sale about a year or so ago, but when I bought it, it only had the gong, the top, and the base. The person couldn't find the side rails. So I ended up buying a couple of pieces of wood at the lumberyard and modifying the ends so they would slide into the drilled holes, top and bottom, sanded, painted, and then we listed it. Took a little while, but it recently sold. It's getting shipped out tomorrow. So one thing before it goes. It's a good sounding gong, isn't it?
Yep. Okay, so as you can see, Mr. Pish Posh had a vision. He saw something in this gong. It's like actually a really cool looking piece, and he was able to fill in those missing pieces because he does have the skills to do that. And we got a nice price for it. We did have a couple of questions ahead of time. I don't think it was the person who ended up buying it who actually did who asked those first questions, but someone else came along and paid the $250 plus the shipping to get it to wherever it was that they were located. Let's just pop over back to eBay, kind of like we normally start with. What I'm going to do is I also do need to have an update on my productivity challenge, and I wasn't necessarily going to make a separate video on that. And so I thought I would just, at the end of this video, if you're interested in the productivity challenge that we've talked about a couple times, stay tuned for that at the end. But let's keep going with some of the things that sold in that second week of November. We have the Oneida. This flatware was actually new. When we found it on, hold on one second, I'm getting a text. Okay, so this was flatware that we came across on a road trip. It was a while ago. We didn't get it listed right away. I don't generally like to sell my flatware in place settings such as this. Some of the place settings that we found were in the original box. They're new, they're in the plastic sleeves and everything. This was in the baggy wall, like with it, so I think it was brand new. It just didn't have its packaging anymore. So we have the other place settings listed where they can buy each place setting individually. And honestly, to me, it always sounds like a good idea. It always seems like a place setting would be the way to go, especially if somebody wants to expand their service that they have. Maybe be able to add a few extra people in or something like that. But for some reason, place settings for me take forever to sell. So I'm debating, the other flatware is already listed. I could either maybe drop the price. This might not be the most desirable flatware pattern ever, but I'm just trying to decide whether once I finally really need this to move, that I might just take all the dinner forks all together, the spoons all together, and just list them by the piece instead, list it by, a group of spoons, a group of salad forks, etc., like I normally do, because place settings are really tricky to sell. We also have some of the serving pieces that are new in the package. There hasn't been much interest in those either, so this could just be one of those patterns that is just going to take a little while. Next up is some more flatware. So it's these dinner forks, and then these salad forks were bought by the same person. I'm pretty sure this was the situation where they had messaged and asked if there was any kind of deal, like if they bought the two, if he bought more than one thing of flatware. And so I just told him that in my flatware section of my store, it should already be automatically set up that if you buy more than one piece from the flatware section or more than one listing, you automatically get a 10% off. And so he was happy with that and made the purchase. So that ended up selling. I think the total ended up being about $60. I can't remember if that was before or after that 10% discount. Let me find my numbers again. Honestly, guys, I have tried to make this video so many times today. I started making it and then my internet was slow. Like I was all ready the first time I did this. Then I had to leave the house. Now I'm back and I tried to jump down here to do it real quick before dinner. And I'm just not as ready as I was the first time. Okay, so let's pop over to the next one. This was a hat. This hat actually was returned. We sold it for $20. It was returned and we have it relisted again. They just basically said that their head was too big. So that was fine. We just took that one back. Next up, this was kind of a nice sale. This scarf ended up selling for $40. This is one of those that I was looking in the scarves, the ties, the belts at our little outlet thrift store. And they have everything really jumbled together. So it's just kind of like a big bin, kind of like a Goodwill outlet. And you're just kind of digging through. So the colors kind of caught my eye. And then I saw the braided tassels at the end. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Not exactly my style. But then I saw Johnny Was printed on it. And I knew I had to bring that home. And that only took a few days. It sold for $20. $40, sorry. Next up was this vintage watch. I think Mr. Pish Posh picked this up somewhere, but we ended up selling it for $35 free shipping. And it was in pretty rough condition. So he just kind of wanted to, we listed it as is, not working, parts repair, that kind of thing. And hopefully, and it went really quick. You know, people who like to fix things could totally work on that. This pair of shorts, one of the oldest listings that we've ever had. This totally cracked me up because we've kind of gone through our shorts before. Shorts are not always the fastest seller for us. We've gone through the shorts bin like, oh, let's just get rid of this, get rid of this. And I had found these originally at Goodwill, and I just thought Millet, I think I looked it up at the time, it was like an REI brand. Like it's associated with like rock climbing, mountain climbing, something like that. Anyway, you know, so maybe more substantial pieces in that pattern and that brand would sell, but these shorts like took forever. And I was, I guess, a little too stubborn. I was like, no, let's just hang on to them a little longer. They're really cool looking. And they finally sold for $35. And they went overseas. And hopefully the person is happy with them. Next up, I had this lot of 50 punch needles for Japanese embroidery. There's an embroidery called bunka. And I only knew about it because I had come across some bunka kits before that had sold pretty well. And so I was at the thrift store, and in the case there was a little box and it had all of these punch needles. The conditions were varying, and there were, you know, some were all kind of the same brand and some were in the box, and they basically had them in the case so that, you know, craft, as she said, the craft supplies were over by the toys. And they didn't need little kids stabbing each other with them. So I thought that was wise on their part to keep it in the case. I paid $10. I listed this. I got a lot of attention right away. I just wanted to make one big lot and I saw another listing of a big lot with some other supplies that sold. So I was like, you know what, let's just move these out. So I did have someone ask me to sell them like 5, and they were like, you'd probably make more money if you just sold them 5 at a time. And I was like, yeah, probably. But I said, if it doesn't sell quickly, I may come back to that idea, and I might come back and revisit that, just breaking it up into smaller lots. But then like the very next couple hours later or something, somebody, I think I had a coupon going for $80, or I had just had a coupon going for like 20% off. And so it sold for $80 and all of it was gone. And I think that was an international sale as well. These were just some new in box glasses that I think Mr. Posh picked up at Goodwill one time while we were there. I think it was him. I don't know that it was me. But anyway, the brand was Visky, and they were crystal, and they just sold for $20. Then we had this little staple remover, and it was a little bit beat up, it's looking like, but originally Mr. Pish Posh had this listed with a stapler, so he had both of them together. And somebody asked for him to separate out that piece, and they wanted to just buy it on their own. So as you can see, it's like a $15 free shipping listing. He just did a quick listing for that person, and they were super happy. They said they had other office supplies that were that color, and they sent us a picture holding it or something like that. It was kind of cute. Okay, next up is this sugar spoon. So I did come across this on my Flatware thrifting day, if you guys remember that. And I thought the olive spoon would sell faster. This is just the sugar spoon. It's kind of beat up, and it did have a monogram. But it sold first, and it sold for $24.99. So it was sterling. Did I say that? And even though with the condition, I thought, it wouldn't do as well. And so I still do have that olive server for sale. Here's a brand that I feel like I've heard from other YouTuber resellers, Holderness and Bourne. We've never come across it before. We did find it it wasn't like in town, but it's like the next, one of the, I don't know. This town's like 45 minutes away from us. It's not super small, but not super big. And we don't go there very often. But anyway, Mr. Pish Posh came across this, and he said the feel of it was super nice, so that made him stop and look it up. So this one sold for, let's see if there was any kind of discount. I think we might have had a coupon going at this point. Yeah, I think we were still running the 20% off sale to we were trying really hard to keep stuff moving, and November was like really slow for us. So that one sold for $40. So not bad for like a little pullover brand, and it's definitely a brand we'll keep an eye out for in the future. It's like a performance little hoodie. Next up was a beanie. I'm sorry, because I did this one point earlier today, and now I'm redoing it. A lot of my pages aren't set up quite right. So this was just a wool knit beanie, and it just had Lake Louise written on it. Okay, we'll move on to this pillow sham. This was a Pottery Barn Kids. We talked a little bit about Pottery Barn bedding last week, or on the last What Sold video. So this is kind of an example. The Pottery Barn Kids Star Wars pieces can do pretty well. And this one was pre-owned. We've found a few that were new in the package, and those did even better. Then we have this pair of Sperry topsiders. They were a size 14, so they were a pretty big size, and we took a $35 offer for those. some little tools from the Mr. Pish Posh, and I couldn't tell you because I forgot to ask him whether these were his or if these were just, sometimes he'll just come across some vintage, hand tools, and he'll just grab them if they're cheap enough. Or he's had them all along, who knows. More flatware. We started the week with some flatware. We're gonna end the week with some flatware. Dance designs. So this was 1 teaspoon. I had an uneven number of the teaspoons, so I had the 1 teaspoon listed separately, and I think the total for the person, because they bought that teaspoon and then they bought 2 teaspoons together, so their total was like $92.98. But just double checking, I don't know how long my coupon was going. Yeah, so less than $92. It was probably closer to $75 for 3 pieces of flatware. Let's hop over to Etsy and look at some patterns. That particular week, the patterns were just kind of popping. Remember one weekend, sometimes on Etsy, I find that once you're visible, you're like visible for this like short period of time, and then it might go quiet again. So anyway, this first one, very Y2K, sold for $10. This butterick with like the little cowl neck type thing, draped neck. Top, we have these Western style vests from the 90s, sold for $14. Quick Sew. I do pretty good with some of their accessories and their winter and outdoor wear type things. $15 for that one. Another butterick sold for $17. This one the designer was Kenzo, and there are collectors for the Kenzo butterick patterns. It was a size 10, so it's pretty tiny. This advanced pattern, I've had this one for a really long time, and it sold for $8. This was one of the ones we've listed recently, these little stuffed toys. This pattern sold for $12. And a $9 pattern. The pattern company is so lovely. It could be that there's another parent company, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, this half slip pattern sold for $9. This DKNY was pretty chewed up, but DKNY 90s stuff continues to be really popular in sewing patterns, the Vogue ones, and that one sold for $14. Another Vogue, this one also sold really quickly with this kind of handkerchief hem, long skirt. I think it was also the 90s, but that one sold for $18. And the last one for that week was, I knew this one would go quickly. I priced it at $20. The tapestry coats are kind of a big thing right now, and so I had a feeling that would go pretty quickly, and it did. So it's like an Afghan blanket coat, sold for $20. So pattern sales can also match trends, clothing trends that are happening at the time. Pattern sales kind of follow those same trends as well. Here's another brand. It's called Roan, and it's a name that I remember from other, YouTuber clothing resellers. This was just a polo shirt, which, generally isn't like that exciting, but $26, as we're going into winter, this polo shirt sold for $26. So I thought that was actually pretty good. These shoes, are by Roper. They sold for $45 on Poshmark. My son had worn them, and honestly, I think he kind of forgot he had them. And Mr. Pish Posh will list anything not nailed down, and so I think they got listed without anybody really conferring. So fortunately, my son is very easygoing because these are gone. So if he really wanted those shoes, hopefully he didn't really care about them one way or the other. You got to watch that Mr. Pish Posh at all times. Okay, Lululemon. Lululemon, everybody, the hype is dropping. I don't get so excited when I see it anymore at the thrifts. It's really hard to resist buying some pieces. I had generally done okay with the men's, like men's Lulu is still doing okay. This one did have some condition issues, so we got a $20 offer and we just took it to move it on. This was a personal Chromebook that we had bopping around, and we sold it for $30 on Posh, go figure. This Patagonia roll tab shirt sold for $34. Kind of like a fishing style shirt. I had picked up these jeans there just by Gap, but I mostly picked them up because they were really, really wide leg pants, which is kind of popular right now. And they took a little while because it was Gap, and so people were trying to offer me really, really low amounts of money. I held out a little bit. Finally, the $26 offer was good enough, and I sold those. I thought this one would do a little bit better than it did, but I might have listed it too late into the season. It was, I think, it's a silk dress by Tommy Bahama, but it was an older Tommy Bahama, and like from the 90s or Y2K, and I got $18 for it. That's fine. Then I sold this belt, Polo Ralph Lauren. It was kind of small. It was just a little size 28 belt. And that sold for $20 on Posh. Smart Wool. This is the time of year Smart Wool is really picking up. It's a good time to list it. It seems to be, those brands, Smart Wool, Ibex, Icebreaker, they seem to have the fastest sell-through right now at this time. So this merino wool quarter zip or half zip like sweater sold for $50 on Poshmark. This was just some kind of random felt snowboard hat that I think somebody made. Sold for $12 from our bins, as usual. These were Kuhl pants. They were women's, and I had bought them thinking I might be able to wear them, fully knowing that I'm not tall enough to wear a regular size pant, but I knew they were also kind of the roll-up. Like you could roll them up and button them, and then I thought maybe I would do that, but then maybe they didn't roll up. I don't know. I feel like I got them at a yard sale or something. Anywho, we listed them, and they sold for $28. And then this was a jacket that I'm sure I think we thrifted it, but Mr. Pish Posh wore it for a while. And he kind of collects jackets like I used to collect purses. We always talking about how, each of us has our thing. And so he just recently decided to clean out the coat closet. And so he listed a few of the coats that he felt like he could do without. That sold for $90. Then the last platform we're going to talk about is Ruby Lane. This little youth spoon sold for $6. It was an Oneida community, and it had a super cute little squirrel on it. And, the condition wasn't that great. You can see a lot of the teeth marks and things like that. So that just sold for $6. This was a nice sale. It sold for $36. It was a scarf from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Can't remember exactly where I picked it up. I think just a local thrift store. But the designs were very similar to William Morris. And there are William Morris scarves sold by the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But I couldn't find the exact one. Like, I couldn't find proof for sure that's what it was. But it definitely had that look. And it sold really quickly after I listed it. Then here's a different olive spoon that sold, but I did talk about this in one of the Flatware Fridays, that this one had just sold. Kind of made me think of the fact that, some of those odd pieces of flatware can be good sellers. So this sold for $30. It was silver plated. The pattern was called Bride's Bouquet. And I thought $30 was a really nice price for a single flatware piece. And then the last sale on Ruby Lane were these clip earrings by Coro. They were They're just a plastic, like a lucite moon glow, they call it. And those sold for $15. So no sales on Depop that week, but I think there was a couple in the week after, so we'll talk about those soon. But I just wanted to just give a quick update about the productivity challenge. I want you guys to feel free to leave me a comment down below about your productivity challenge. Like, how are things going? Are you able to maintain it? Is it helping? Anything you want to share about it. Personally, I think mine fell apart. This is the third week, and I feel like I have not even, I didn't even print out or make the little checklist thing this week. I don't know. Things just kind of went sideways. But I'm not going to say it's a failure. I'm not going to say that I didn't get anything done this week. I just ended up doing things that weren't on my to-do list. And some of it was just circumstance. Some of it was kind of what I was in the mood for. We have a lot of organizing that needs to be done. And Mr. Pish Posh one day had a day and he started cleaning up the garage. And we have discovered, we already knew it, but he started putting kind of things together. So if we want to list something craft related, it's all together. If you want to list something, kitchen, it's all together. Anyway, we realized too that we have a crazy amount of inventory that, it's a whole nother story. I have been to a thrift store a couple of times since that project, but I've walked out of thrift stores with nothing because I've found that it has to be amazing. It has to be really good for me to want to bring it home right now. But anywho, that kind of organizing started. So I had kind of started the same day working on my Flatware organization, which is behind schedule. I also started working on some of the pattern organization on another day because we're trying to clear up some more space in the garage. And so it was kind of all these side projects took up the main amount of time that I had for reselling each week on top of the other things that I just do on a regular basis. So I've been thrifting less, so that doesn't take up as much time. So, I have gotten some listings done here and there. I did also do it more I'm just going to take some pictures right now. So I didn't I'm just going to list one thing start to finish. Some of the lessons I learned in those first couple weeks, I still have been trying to implement. So I think that's a win. But I'm also kind of frustrated because I'm not finished with any of the organization projects. The garage looks great. I might even do a video my thrift hauls are going to be from my garage, right? We could totally have a garage, a thrift store out of our garage at the moment. Because it's a lot of stuff from yard sales and things like that I've gathered up. Anywho. Okay, I will stop. I just wanted to give you guys that heads up. I know it's a crazy time of year for a lot of people, so maybe not it's either a good time for a challenge like that because you can still get some things done, or maybe we'll talk again about another challenge, at the beginning of the year and just kind of see what we need to do, to kind of get ourselves going for January. So leave me a comment, like I said, about your challenge, but also about your sales. How have sales been going for you guys? And just let me know something cool that you found or sold or whatever. And I will talk to you as soon as I can again.